Ever wondered how some of the world's most successful people started with nothing? I mean, truly nothing. No silver spoon, no safety net, just a fire in their belly and a dream in their heart. Today, we're diving into 10 incredible journeys that prove anything is possible. My own story begins not under the bright lights of a television studio but in the deep poverty of rural Mississippi. I was born to a teenage single mother, my early years marked by hardship and profound adversity. We had so little. I remember wearing dresses made out of potato sacks. I was passed between family members, searching for a place to belong and to feel safe. The trauma I endured as a child could have defined my life, could have silenced my voice forever. But even in the darkest moments there was a spark, a love for words, a love for stories, a love for connection. I found refuge in books and in the church, where I discovered the power of public speaking. I would recite poems, I would recite Bible verses, and in those moments I felt a sense of purpose. Education became my lifeline. I earned a full scholarship to Tennessee State University and began my career in media while still in college. I was fired from my job as a television reporter in Baltimore, told I was too emotionally invested in the stories. What they saw as a weakness, I knew was my greatest strength. Moving to Chicago to host a morning talk show was the turning point. We threw out the rule book. The Oprah Winfrey Show became more than a program, it became a global conversation. From humble beginnings in Mississippi to building a media empire, my journey is about turning pain into purpose. Your wounds can become your wisdom. No matter how far down you start, you have the power to rise. Imagine being at your lowest point. You feel like a failure. The world has told you no so many times you've started to believe it. This was the reality for Joanne Rowling. Before she gifted the world with Harry Potter, she was a single mother, recently divorced, unemployed, living on government assistance. She would write in cafes across Edinburgh, nursing a single cup of coffee for hours to stay warm. Her infant daughter Jessica sleeping in a pram beside her. The story of a young wizard with a lightning bolt scar was her escape. Depression, poverty, the overwhelming feeling of failure. The manuscript for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was her lifeline. Yet, the publishing world didn't see the magic at first. One by one, 12 different publishing houses rejected her work. Finally, a small publisher, Bloomsbury, took a chance. The editor's 8-year-old daughter read the first chapter and demanded the rest. Even then, the initial print run was only 500 copies. No one could have predicted what would happen next. The Boy Who Lived would ignite the imaginations of millions, transcending age, culture, and language. It became a universe of its own, blockbuster films, theme parks, a legacy that endures for generations. J.K. Rowling's journey is a lesson in resilience. Failure can be a catalyst for success. Her story is about the magic of believing in yourself when no one else does. Can you taste a dream? For Howard Schultz, the dream tasted like a rich, perfectly brewed cup of coffee. But his story doesn't start in a cozy Italian espresso bar. It starts in the housing projects of Canarsie, Brooklyn. He grew up in a world of struggle. The American dream felt distant. He vividly remembers the day his father, a truck driver, broke his ankle on the job. With no health insurance and no workers' compensation, his family lost its only source of income. That moment of helplessness was seared into his memory. He vowed he'd build a company that treated employees with dignity and never leave people behind. He was the first in his family to go to college, escaping the projects through a football scholarship. After graduating, he began a career in sales and landed at a Swedish kitchenware company. He traveled to Seattle to visit a small client that was buying an unusual number of drip coffee makers from him. That client was a little coffee bean store called Starbucks. On a later trip to Milan, Italy, he had his second epiphany. He saw the espresso bars on every corner. He saw them not just as places to get coffee but as community gathering spots, a third place between home and work. He rushed back to Seattle, brimming with excitement, and tried to convince the Starbucks owners to embrace this vision. They resisted, wanting to remain a simple coffee roaster. So, Howard did the unthinkable. He left. With very little money but an unshakable belief in his vision, he started his own coffee bar, Il Giornale. He persevered, and eventually, he was successful enough to buy the original Starbucks and merge it with his own company. He transformed it from a handful of stores into the global empire we know today, fulfilling the promise he made to himself all those years ago in the projects of Brooklyn. What does the American dream look like? For many, it looks like a polo player on a crisp white shirt, but the man who created that iconic image, Ralph Lauren, was born Ralph Lifshitz, the son of Jewish immigrants from Belarus, living in the Bronx. He wasn't born into a world of country clubs or Ivy League campuses. His world was one of shared bedrooms and a longing for something more. He would escape into the movies, mesmerized by the style and grace of Cary Grant and Fred Astaire. He had no formal design training. His fashion education came from the people he saw on the streets and the fantasies he created in his mind. He imagined a wide, luxurious, European-style tie. His boss rejected the idea, so he went out on his own. He began making wide, colorful ties out of rags, selling them from a drawer in a showroom in the Empire State Building. He called his brand Polo, a world of classic style he had always dreamed of. From that single drawer, Ralph Lauren built an empire spanning clothing, home goods, fragrances. He didn't just sell clothes, he sold a story. The story of Apple, one of the most valuable companies in the world, doesn't begin in a sleek corporate boardroom. It begins in a garage in Cupertino, California. Steve Jobs, a bundle of contradictions. A college dropout who revolutionized technology. An adopted child who created a global family of users. His journey was anything but conventional. From the very beginning he was an outsider, someone who saw the world differently. He was brilliant but rebellious, often bored and unchallenged by traditional schooling. He enrolled in Reed College but dropped out after just one semester. He stayed on campus, sleeping on the floor of friends' rooms, auditing classes that interested him, like calligraphy. The Mac was the first computer with beautiful typography, a direct result of him dropping in on that one class. After a spiritual journey to India, he returned to California and reconnected with Steve Wozniak. In 1976, in his parents' garage, they founded Apple Computer. His life is a testament to the idea that sometimes life hits you in the head with a brick, but you can't lose faith. You have to think different. When we look at Elon Musk today, we see a man who is literally trying to take humanity to Mars, who has revolutionized electric cars, who is reshaping the future of energy and artificial intelligence. It's easy to assume he was destined for this. But his story begins far from Silicon Valley in Pretoria, South Africa, during the turbulent era of apartheid. He was a socially awkward, bookish kid who was severely bullied in school. He found his escape in books and in computers. He taught himself to code. At 12, he created and sold his first video game. He knew he wanted to be in America. At 17, he moved to Canada by himself with very little money. His early years in North America were a grind. He started Zip2, then PayPal. Instead of retiring, he risked it all on SpaceX, Tesla, SolarCity. People said he was crazy. He almost lost everything. But his relentless work ethic and belief pulled him through. That resilience helped change the world. Let's travel back in time, to the mid-19th century. Imagine a small, one-room cottage in Dunfermline, Scotland. This is where Andrew Carnegie was born. His family were weavers, but the Industrial Revolution made their craft obsolete. Plunged into poverty, the Carnegie family immigrated to America. His first job was as a bobbin boy in a cotton mill, working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, earning $1.20 per week. Even in that dark, noisy factory, Andrew was a voracious learner. He moved from the cotton mill to become a telegraph messenger boy. He learned the city inside and out, memorized the faces and names of important businessmen. His big break came when Thomas A. Scott hired him. Scott taught him about investing. With Scott's guidance, Carnegie made his first investment. He saw steel would build modern America. He left the railroad to focus on steel, founding Carnegie Steel Company. The poor immigrant boy from Scotland had become the richest man on the planet, a titan who built the backbone of a new nation. When you think of the CEO of a Fortune 500 company like Xerox, what image comes to mind? For a lot of folks, it's probably not a woman who grew up in the Baruch houses, a public housing project on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. But y'all, that is exactly where Ursula Burns' story begins. Raised by a single mama who worked multiple jobs, Ursula learned early about hard work and resilience. Her mama's mantra was simple but so powerful: where you are is not who you are. Education was non-negotiable in their house. Ursula was a gifted student, especially in math. She dreamed of being an engineer, a path that was not common for young women, let alone young black women from the projects back then. She attended a Catholic high school and went on to earn her bachelor's in mechanical engineering. In 1980, she joined Xerox as a summer intern. That internship was the first step on a ladder she would climb for the next 3 decades. She started at the very bottom, in product development. She rose steadily through the ranks, holding leadership positions. In 2009, Ursula Burns made history. She was named the Chief Executive Officer of Xerox, becoming the first black woman to head a Fortune 500 company. Have you ever had a dream that seemed so far out of reach, it felt like you were chasing a ghost? Now just imagine chasing that dream while you have no home, carrying all your worldly possessions in a suitcase, and being responsible for the well-being of your young son. This isn't the plot of a movie. This was the reality for Chris Gardner. His story inspired the film, The Pursuit of Happiness, a testament to a father's love and the will to survive. Gardner's life was a series of struggles long before he became homeless. He grew up in poverty, he had an abusive stepfather, he spent time in foster care. As a young adult, he served in the Navy, then he worked as a medical equipment salesman. The bone density scanners he sold were a tough sell. He was barely making ends meet. The turning point came one day in a parking lot. He saw a man get out of a gleaming red Ferrari. Chris asked him what he did for a living. The man replied, "I'm a stockbroker." Chris decided he wanted to be a stockbroker, for the security and happiness it represented. He set his sights on an internship at Dean Witter Reynolds. It was unpaid, 20 competitors for one job. He quit his salesman job to try, then the man who offered him the internship got fired before Chris started. His life spiraled downward. With no income, his relationship fell apart. He was left with sole custody of his toddler, Chris Jr. Soon after, they were evicted. For nearly a year, they were homeless. By day, Chris put on his one good suit and went to his unpaid internship. Through grit and determination, Chris not only survived, he thrived. He was the intern offered the job at Dean Witter. He later founded Gardner Rich & Company. He proved that happiness is something you can, and must, pursue. The American dream is a powerful magnet, drawing people from all over the world with the promise of opportunity. For Do-Won Chang and his wife, Jin Suk, that dream was so compelling that they left South Korea and moved to America in 1981. They arrived with nothing but hope. They didn't speak English, they had no college degrees, they had very little money. The land of opportunity felt overwhelming, and at times downright unforgiving. To survive, Do-Won Chang worked 3 jobs all at once. He worked as a janitor, he worked as a gas station attendant, he worked in a coffee shop. It was grueling, back-breaking work, from early in the morning until late at night. During his time at the gas station, he noticed something interesting. The people who drove the nicest cars were all in the garment business. A new idea began to form. In 1984, with just $11,000 in savings, they opened a small clothing store in Los Angeles. The store was an immediate success. In their very first year, they generated $700,000 in sales. They realized they'd tapped into something powerful, the demand for fast, affordable fashion. They built a global fashion empire with hundreds of stores worldwide. Their journey is a testament to the enduring power of the American dream. 10 stories. 10 incredible journeys from the depths of struggle to the heights of success. What do they all have in common? They faced their circumstances not as a final sentence but as a starting point. They saw failure not as a wall but as a doorway. They held onto a vision for their lives that was bigger than their reality, and they refused to let go. The magic is that they kept going anyway. They understood that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, even if that step is taken in the dark. You have the power, right now, to start writing a new chapter. So I want to ask you, what is your dream? Let these stories be the fuel for that fire. Let them remind you of the incredible strength that lies within you. Which story inspired you the most? Let us know in the comments, and remember, your journey can start today.